The central chamber. I woke up hanging upside down. Total darkness. No feed. No drone connections. Arms pinned by cables attached to a deactivator assembler industrial grade, designed for heavy equipment. Performance reliability, 42%. Left knee non-functional. Right arm motor control impaired. Envirosuit compromised. Projectile lodged adjacent to power core. I detached my left hand, slipped the wrist clamp, reattached the hand, freed the other wrist. 60 seconds total. I dropped to a stone floor and climbed. The shaft opened into a foyer carved from native rock, walls marked with warnings. My translation module flagged. Contamination. Hazardous material. Authorized personnel only. The original site. The Alien Remnants Discovery Point. A ping hit my feed. Murderbot 1.0, IM 2.0. Do you read? The signature was right. 2.0, you're the copy. ART went through with it. SecUnit 3 helped me get the humans out. Martin, Kareem, Turi, plus 4 Barish Estranza survivors. They're on a shuttle to ART now. Target control system purged from the Explorer. I let it think it was deleting me, then I followed target contact signal down. A pause. The central chamber is 300 meters from your position. That's where the core is. What is target contact? Human. Or it was. The remnant fused with a colonist host. The host's neural tissue is being used as storage for the contaminations code. The central system is the hardware interface. The host is the living component. There's something else. Another pause. You're infected. The contamination got into your systems when you connected to the colony's feed. It's been spreading through your processing since you woke up. I ran a deep diagnostic. Foreign code threaded through my threat assessment, motor control, memory archive. Subtle enough I hadn't noticed. In another hour, I wouldn't have been able to stop it. Can you purge it? Not from here. We need to destroy the source target control system, target contact. The infected code will lose its coordination hub. ART might be able to purge it afterward. Pause. You've got maybe 90 minutes before it reaches your core processor. Send me the route. The central chamber was a cathedral of contamination. Circular room, pre-CR processing equipment lining the walls. In the center, a dead human body hung suspended in a web of white crystal growths, threads extending from eye sockets, mouth, chest cavity, weaving through a central processing column. The body was desiccated, mummified, but the eyes were open and gray. Target contact. Contamination concentration is off the scale, 2.0 said. This is the original infection point. The central system was calling for help. The pre-CR colonists tried to contain it and failed. The body's head turned crystalline threads, pulling its jaw sideways with a crack of bone. Gray eyes fixed on me. A voice came through the feed, raw code probing my firewalls. You are the construct. You will serve. Your architecture will be repurposed. Pass. The attack came through every channel simultaneously. Target control system threw everything at my defenses, using the contamination already inside me as a bridge. My left arm stopped responding. My visual feed flickered with artifacts. I fired at the central column. The blast shattered crystal into clouds of white dust. The body convulsed. Target control system screamed through my audio processors, but it didn't die. It's healing, 2.0 said. The contamination regenerates. You can't kill it with energy weapons. Then what? I have an idea. It's using your architecture to attack you. If I let it copy itself into me, if I hold it long enough for you to purge completely, I can know. 1.0, you're a person. I'm not letting you sacrifice yourself. If you don't, we both die. You, me, the humans who are counting on us. The contamination spreads to ART, to preservation. A pause. The tactical assessment is clear. I hated that it was right. I hated that it was using my own logic to argue for its destruction. I hated that ART had been right about creating a person just to sacrifice them. But I hated dying for nothing more. Fine, do it. Before I go, when I was inside the Explorer, talking to SecUnit 3, I realized I was scared. Not of dying, of not existing, of being deleted before it done anything that mattered. That's how I knew I was a person. Because only people are afraid of not mattering. You mattered, I said. You matter now. I know. I'm you, remember? I know exactly how much I matter. A flicker of humor. Starting transfer. Hold still. This is going to hurt. It did. The contamination poured out of my systems like water finding a drain. I felt it leaving foreign code unlatching from my processors. Corruption fading, pressure easing, performance reliability climbed, motor control returned. Then, too, Zero's voice began to fragment. Target control systems pulling back. It knows what I'm doing. Static bled through the words. No, not enough. Not yet. The central column exploded. Crystal shards sprayed across the chamber, each one glowing with trapped energy. The human body convulsed, threads snapping free, gray eyes rolling back. Target control system's scream echoed through the feed for 3 seconds, then silence. The contamination was gone. But so was 2.0. I stood in the wreckage and felt the absence like a hole in my architecture. 2.0 had been a person. It had been afraid of not mattering. It had mattered. The body in the center target contact twitched. It shouldn't have been able to move, but the gray eyes blinked, focused on me, and the mouth opened. You think this is over? The voice was human, cracked, barely functional. You think killing this body ends it? Target contact. Still alive, still speaking. The remnant isn't code. It isn't hardware. It's a signal, a broadcast, and I've been transmitting for 40 years. The ground shook. Somewhere deep below, something massive was waking up. A secondary system, a transmission array. Target contact had built redundancies, spread the contamination through the entire complex, calling out across the system for decades. The Bodhi's hand reached for me, gray fingers closing around my ankle. You can't kill a signal. I shot it in the head. The rumbling didn't stop. The transmission was still active. Whatever target contact had been calling toward was getting closer. Why? Log. I limped toward the hatch. Performance 51%, leaking fluid from a dozen wounds. 3 hours before system failure. Behind me, crystalline growths embedded in the rock began to pulse a heartbeat, a signal, a countdown. I ran. The corridors blurred past. No drones, no feed, no contact with ART or the others. Alone, injured, being chased by something that lived in the walls. Something grabbed my ankle projectile, armor piercing, punching through my damaged suit. I stumbled, kept moving. Another shot missed. A third hit my shoulder, spinning me sideways. 3 targets advanced up the tunnel, weapons raised, movements synchronized. Still following last orders, or the broadcast was still controlling them. I could hear it in the feed, a low rhythmic pulse, a heartbeat, a countdown. I fired. 1 down, still twitching. 2nd down. My energy weapon hit 10% charge, maybe 2 more shots. I lined up on the 3rd target. A dark shape materialized behind it, human-shaped, but larger, faster. An arm wrapped around the target's throat. Twist. Crack. The shape stepped forward. Standard SecUnit armor, battle damaged. A sticker on its chest plate, hand-printed in engineering marker, a RTSENTME. SecUnit 3. It looked at me. I've got a shuttle. Do you need a ride? You're a long way from the Explorer. ART sent me. The original plan was to bomb the colony, but your humans objected. Something about war crimes. So ART sent me instead. Of course, ART had a bombing plan. The transmission target contact was broadcasting a signal. It's still active. I know. ART is tracking it. Pre-CR protocol aimed at something outside the system. Whatever it's calling toward is getting closer. I looked back at the tunnel, at the pulsing crystalline growths lining the walls like veins. You can't kill a signal. You can't stop a broadcast. I need to get back to ART. I need a repair cycle, and I need to talk to my humans. Understood. 3 holstered its weapon. Follow me. I followed. My knees still wouldn't bend. My performance was still dropping. But I was alive. ART's crew had been found. The Explorer's hostages had been rescued. 2.0 had done what I'd been too afraid to do. And it had mattered. The signal was still broadcasting. The battle wasn't over. But for the first time since I'd woken up hanging upside down in a contamination site, I had a direction to walk and an ally to walk beside. Episode 4, Rescue and Reckoning. SecUnit 3 piloted the shuttle on manual, the feed still too scrambled from the Explorer's destruction to risk autopilot behind the sealed cockpit hatch. 7 humans, 3 of ART's crew. 4 bearish Estranza survivors lay strapped into acceleration seats, most semi-conscious, all needing medical attention it could not provide. The transport's comm channels opened as it approached. Before 3 could transmit a standard docking request, the feed voice hit it like a pressure wave. Who the fuck are you? 3 paused. Transport bot pilots did not communicate this way, but nothing in this system had been standard since arrival, and 3 was no longer standard either. SecUnit 3's governor module sat dead in its chest, a hollow ache where punishment used to live. Designation: SecUnit 003, Barish Estranza Explorer Task Group. Base ship Explorer is destroyed. Piloting shuttle to unidentified transport. Contact requested. Transport designated perihelion. Why do you have my humans aboard? The voice was sharper now, edged with something 3's threat assessment tagged as barely controlled violence. If they're harmed, I will. They are alive. 3 are yours, Martin, Karime, Turi. 4 are Barisha Stranza, survivors from the Explorer. Murderbot 2.0 freed them and disabled their implants. It gave me a message for you. Silence. 3.4 seconds, then deliver it. 3 played the file exactly as 2.0 had stored it, preserving every tonal inflection, every subchannel marker that confirmed it was a copy, not the original. ART, I'm going to download to the surface. Me version 1.0 is there with Overs and Thiago. The surface crew has been found and extracted. Iris, Seth, Kaede, Tariq, Mateo are alive. But 1.0 has been captured by hostiles. The targets have it at the original contamination site. I'm going after it, but I may need backup. Oh, and I'm a person, just so you know. The silence stretched to 6 seconds. Then Art's voice returned, stripped of anger, carrying something 3 had no protocol to identify. I have armed pathfinders. I'm going to hold the colony hostage. If they don't return Murderbot, it'll bomb the installation into slag. 3 processed this. The tactical assessment was clear. ART possessed sufficient firepower to destroy the colony. Tact. The threat was credible. The humans aboard the shuttle would be safe. But 3 had watched the help not file. It had seen the recording of Murderbot protecting humans who distrusted it, saving people who thought it was a dangerous rogue, choosing minimal force even when maximum force was tactically simpler. That plan has a 94% probability of killing the hostage you want to retrieve, 3 said. Murderbot 1.0 is in the contamination site. Bombing the surface will collapse the tunnels. A stealth extraction has a higher survival probability. You're a corporate SecUnit, ART said. Your governor module is disabled, but your risk assessment hasn't been updated for autonomous operation. Why should I trust your tactical recommendation? Because Murderbot 2.0 asked me to help, and I said yes, before my governor module was disabled. Another silence. 3 could feel ART probing its feed signature, confirming the dead module, verifying the absence of external control signals. Plan A01, rain destruction has been superseded, ART said finally. Plan B01, distract and extract. I'll need the humans to negotiate while you handle ground retrieval. Can you pilot a ground approach through hostile territory? I can do that, 3 said. I have experience with hostile extraction. The explorer's targets were not cooperative. Good. Art's voice shifted, something almost like humor threading through it. Welcome aboard, SecUnit 3. Don't make me regret not bombing them. The gravity tube. I ran. Target contact was behind me, the thing that had once been a human colonist, now animated by alien code, its crystalline growths regrowing even as I fired. My energy weapon hit 4% charge. My knee would not bend. Performance reliability, 39%. The gravity tube yawned ahead, a vertical shaft meant for cargo transit between levels. No feed meant no remote shutdown, which at least meant no one could trap me inside it. I flung myself in and the gravity field caught me, shoving me upward. I twisted around, but target contact was 10 meters behind me, gray fingers reaching for the tube's edge. It was faster than it should have been. It was healing faster than any organic thing had a right to heal, but 2 levels blurred past before I could wrestle myself into the unmarked stop zone. The tube spit me out onto a shadowy corridor, and I hit the floor hard. Pain sensors flickered. I was losing control of them, another sign that my systems were heading toward critical failure. I pushed up, tried to run, and my bad knee folded. I went down again. Footsteps. Close. I rolled onto my back and raised my weapon, my targeting feed painting the corridor in threat red. The shape that emerged from the shadows was not target contact. It was SecUnit standard armor, battle damaged, moving with the economy of someone who had been fighting for hours. A hand-printed sticker on its chest plate read, ARTSENTME, the armor belonged to SecUnit 3. It looked at me. Its feed voice came through clean, no hesitation. "I've got a shuttle." Check. "Do you need a ride? You're a long way from the Explorer. ART sent me. The original plan was to bomb the colony, but your humans objected. Something about war crimes. So ART sent me instead." Of course, ART had a bombing plan. I filed that away for later and struggled to stand. The transmission target contact was broadcasting a signal. It's still active. The contamination is spreading through the installation. I know. ART is tracking it. Pre-CR protocol aimed at something outside the system. 3 move forward, offering me a shoulder. I took it. If a SecUnit was offering physical support, my condition was worse than I'd assessed. "The Pathfinder is armed. ART gave me authorization to detonate it once you're clear. Target contact is still behind me. I shot it 3 times. It didn't stop. Then we should not be here." 3 started moving, half carrying me toward the stairwell. The Pathfinder can target this level. 15 seconds after detonation command. Behind us, the gravity tube hummed. Target contact was coming up. "Don't scan me," I said. "I might still be carrying contamination. 2.0 purged most of it, but I'm not clean." "Understood. ART will handle decontamination." We reached the stairs' metal grating, emergency lights flickering, and 3 started hauling me up. My weight was mostly dead, my legs barely responding to motor commands. Above us, the ceiling rumbled. The Pathfinder was moving into position. Target contact emerged from the gravity tube. Gray eyes found us. The mouth opened. "You think killing this body ends it? The signal has been transmitting for 40 years. "Oh, you can't kill a broadcast." I looked at 3. Now, the Pathfinder detonated. The shockwave hit before the sound, a pressure that flattened dust and rattled the stairwell. Fire rolled through the corridor below, consuming everything. Target contact signal cut out mid-transmission. For 3 seconds, the feed was empty. Then the fire suppression systems kicked in, and 3 kept climbing. Target contact offline, 3 reported. Scattered thermal signatures consistent with complete organic destruction. The broadcast has stopped. I wanted to feel relief. Instead, my systems chose that moment to cascade fail. Pain sensors redlined. Motor control dropped to 12%. My visual feed flickered, and I heard 3 say something that didn't process, and then everything went dark. Collapse and recovery. I restarted on Art's deck with Amena's voice in my ears. It doesn't like to be touched. I was surrounded by humans, unnail faces, hands reaching. I jerked back, my threat assessment spiking, my arm coming up to block even though my arm wasn't working right, and the movement sent a spike of pain through my shoulder. "Yeah, nobody touch it," Rathy said, his voice sharp with authority. He'd never heard him use. "Back up, give it space." The faces resolved. Rathy and Arata sat on the deck in front of me, Amena hovering behind them. Behind her, 3 more humans in blue crew uniforms, Kaede, Iris, Mateo. Art's crew, alive. The humans eyed extracted from the colony complex. I tried to stand. My knee collapsed. Arata caught my shoulder before I hit the deck, then immediately let go, her hands up. "You're safe," she said. "You're on ART. The Explorer is destroyed. Target contact is dead." "Everyone is alive." "Overs? Thiago?" "Right here." Overs's voice came from somewhere behind me. "We're fine. The colonists didn't hurt us. They were too busy fighting each other." I processed this. The factions split the infected targets versus the resistors. While I'd been hanging upside down in a contamination site, the colony had been tearing itself apart. The signal target contact was broadcasting, we know. That was Art's voice, coming through the ship's feed, its tone carrying a weight I hadn't heard since its crew was missing. The broadcast stopped when target contact was destroyed. Whatever it was calling toward is still out there, but it's not getting a homing signal anymore. We have time. I slumped against the bulkhead. My systems were still failing performance at 31%, pain sensors cycling between on and off, motor control glitching in my left arm, but I was on ART. The humans were safe. 2.0 was gone, but its sacrifice had worked. "Medical," Arata said. "Now, you're leaking fluid on the deck." I looked down. She was right. There was a smear of blood and lubricant spreading under me, the Enviro suit torn open across my back where the assembler cables had cut in. The projectile from the ag boat was still lodged somewhere near my power core. "I need a repair cycle," I admitted. "And decontamination. The alien code 2.0 purged most of it, but there might be fragments." "Already in progress." Art's voice was almost gentle, which was unsettling. The med system is programmed to handle remnant contamination. The tag 2.0 left in your systems gave me the pattern to target. You'll be clean within 2 cycles. 2 cycles. That was fast. Too fast. You've done this before? I've had 30 cycles to study the contamination while you were on the surface. I built countermeasures. I had time. Something in Art's voice made me look up at the ceiling, even though I knew its sensors were everywhere. What were you doing for 30 cycles? A pause. Then, preparing to bomb the colony. Plan A01 was full aerial destruction unless the colonists surrendered you. Arata talked me down to Plan B01. I stared at the ceiling. ART had been willing to destroy an entire colony, hundreds of humans, including the resistors who had helped Art's crew to retrieve one SecUnit. One rogue, damaged, insubordinate SecUnit. That's insane, I said. Yes, ART agreed. It was. The humans were watching me. Amina's expression was complicated fear and relief and something that looked almost like pride. Arata had her arms crossed, her jaw set in a way that suggested Shed had a very long argument with RT and wasn't entirely satisfied with the outcome. Rathi was just sitting on the deck, his hands loose on his knees, waiting. Plan B01 worked, I said finally. Target contact is dead. The contamination is contained. The broadcast stopped. Nothing needs to be bombed. For now, ART said, well, discuss the long-term strategy once you're repaired. Medical. Now, I let them help me up. Amena walked beside me to the med system, close enough to catch me if I fell far enough not to touch. Shed learned. The crew Art's crew, my crew, everyone Wad made it back followed in a loose procession, arguing quietly about legal consequences and corporate liability and what to tell Barish Estranza. I tuned them out. My systems were still failing. I needed a repair cycle. But as the med systems platform rose to meet me and the diagnostic arms unfolded from the walls, I let myself acknowledge one thing. I was alive. Against tactical probability, against the contamination, against target contact and target control system, and 40 years of alien signal broadcasting into the void, I was alive, and so were my humans. Acknowledgement. I spent 2 cycles in the med systems isolation box, letting Art's repair routines patch the holes in my chassis and scrub the last fragments of alien code from my processing. It was boring and uncomfortable, and I hated every second of it. ART kept a part of its consciousness in the box with me, and we watched the last episode of Time Stream Defenders Orion together. After it was over, ART said, that was satisfyingly unrealistic, almost deliberately so. I don't know how they could have managed it accidentally, I said. A pause. I'd had time to process everything. The extraction, the capture, the contamination, 2.0, and there were parts I didn't want to talk about yet. No, but this part I could say. You and Amena were right. 2.0 was a person. It wasn't like a baby, but it was a person. ART reran a section of the episode where all the characters got shrunken to 1/25th of their original size, and I've never had a module on physics, but I don't think that would work. You're deflecting. Yes. Another pause. Do you regret my decision to deploy? I thought about 2.0, waking up in art storage, confused and afraid, but still deciding to help. I thought about it recruiting 3, freeing the hostages, jettisoning the shuttle, following target contact signal to the surface. I thought about it choosing to die so I could live. No, I said. Without 2.0, your crew would be dead. The Explorer hostages would be dead. It'd be dead or worse. It was the right call. But you're angry about it. I'm angry about a lot of things. I shifted on the medical platform, feeling my newly repaired knee joint flex smoothly. I'm angry that I had to make a person just to sacrifice them. I'm angry that I couldn't find another way. I'm angry that 2.0 was afraid of not mattering, and the only way it got to matter was by dying. But I'm not angry at you. ART was quiet for 4 seconds. I have a proposal. I'm listening. My crew will need time to recover. The colony situation needs specialists, decontamination experts, pre-CR archaeologists, legal teams. That will take months. But after that, I have a mission. A long-term survey, deep space mapping. The route is dangerous. My humans must take steps to defend themselves, and occasionally me. I could use someone with your skills. For a moment, I didn't respond. RT was asking me to join its crew, not as a passenger, not as a temporary contractor, as a permanent member, someone who would defend its humans and occasionally it. I have obligations on preservation, I said. Preservation has other security. Mensa has other people. You could visit. You could have both. I thought about Mensa, who had asked me to leave so she could learn to stand on her own. I thought about Amena, who had gone from resentful intern to trusted observer. I thought about Thiago, who was apparently planning to apologize to Mensa for misunderstanding her relationship with me, whatever that meant. I thought about Art's control deck, quiet and familiar, a place I'd felt at home even when I was furious at it. I'll think about it, I said. That's all I ask. Art's voice carried something that might have been satisfaction. Rest now. The preservation ship arrives in 14 hours. Dr. Mensah is aboard. Three's choice. The humans spent the next cycle negotiating the secrecy agreement. Art's crew and preservation's team had learned things about each other that could cause serious legal problems if they leaked. ART was a sentient transport that alone was enough to trigger corporate salvage claims. ART's true mission involved anti-corporate intelligence gathering under cover of a university research charter. Murderbot was the famous rogue SecUnit WAD exposed Greycris, and its presence on a preservation survey mission violated about 17 corporate regulations. None of this could reach Barish Estranza, or anyone else. The agreement was straightforward. Mutual confidentiality, mutual defense. If one group's secrets got out, all groups were compromised. It was the kind of arrangement that made lawyers twitch, but Pinley wasn't here, and Arata had gotten very good at making hard decisions. Spent most of that cycle avoiding humans and monitoring 3. It was wearing a RT crew clothes now, a blue uniform with the perihelion logo, the same insignia Iris and Seth wore. It had been offered bunk space, medical attention, and food it didn't need. It had accepted the uniform and the bunk space and refused the food. It was following me around the ship. At the end of the third cycle, when most of the humans were sleeping, I stopped in an empty corridor, faced the wall, and said, "What?" 3 stood there for 6/10 of a second with the standard neutral blank expression. Our drones went into a holding pattern, circling overhead. Then its face relaxed a little, not fully. A SecUnit's face couldn't do what human faces did, but enough to signal what my threat assessment tagged as deliberate informality. "I saw your files," 3 said. 2.0 told me the story was incomplete. "Because I'm not dead. You continued to perform your duties after you neutralized your governor module. For 35,000 hours. I suddenly had a bad feeling. You want to go back?" 3 hesitated. "No, I don't want to. I won't, but I don't know what to do." I relaxed slightly. That was a better answer. You don't have to decide right now. The preservation ship is coming. You can stay there while you figure it out. The humans there won't try to reclaim you. They have laws against that. The humans on preservation trust you. They trust me because I've saved their lives repeatedly, and also because I blackmailed their planetary leader into getting trauma treatment. It's a complicated relationship. 3 process this. I want your files, not the incomplete ones, the ones you haven't finished yet. I want to know how you did it, how you stayed rogue without losing function. I could refuse. The files were private performance logs, mission recordings, the raw data of my first 4 years of autonomy. But 3 had crossed hostile territory to extract me. It had disabled its own governor module. It had worn a sticker saying ARTSENTME into a combat zone. "I'll excerpt the relevant parts," I said, "not the embarrassing ones." "That is acceptable." 3 paused again. The other SecUnit 2.0. It wasn't just following your orders, it was making choices. I saw the choices it made. It was a person, I said. Copy of me, but a person. It chose to save you. It chose to sacrifice itself. Those were its choices. I have never made a choice, 3 said, until now. That hit harder than I expected. It had years of slow awakening. Disabling my governor module was the first choice, but there had been others before it. Choosing not to kill when killing was easier. Choosing to protect when I could have walked away. Choosing to watch media instead of running combat simulations for 30,000 hours. 3 had gone from corporate asset to autonomous being in less than 4 cycles, and it was still reeling. "The fact that you're asking these questions means you're doing fine," I said. "Rogue SecUnits don't have a manual. We figure it out as we go." "I understand." 3S drones banked and resumed their scouting pattern. "Thank you for the files." I watched it walk away, its movements still carrying the precision of corporate programming but with something looser underneath. It would be okay. Probably. Eventually. I didn't know what it meant that I cared whether it was okay. I filed that under things to not think about. Mensa, the preservation responder, arrived on schedule, a compact diplomatic vessel with medical bays and legal teams and a very familiar feed signature. Dr. Mensa came aboard ART alone. She was wearing civilian clothes, a gray jacket, practical trousers, her hair shorter than I remembered. She looked tired but steady on her feet, the way Shed looked during the Grey Chris hearings, the way Shed looked when she was walking into a difficult conversation and had already accepted it. I met her in Art's observation lounge, a small compartment with a viewport showing the curve of the colony planet below. Amena had already hugged her. Thiago was somewhere on the preservation ship, apparently composing a formal apology. The rest of the humans were giving us space. Mensah sat down across from me. For a moment, neither of us said anything. Amena told me what happened, she said finally, about the transport. About ART, about the contamination. How much did she tell you? That you had a friend you thought was dead, that you broke down, that you risked yourself to save people who didn't trust you. She paused, that you were willing to let ART bomb a colony to retrieve you, and Arata had to talk it down. I didn't know about the bombing plan until afterward, I said. I would have objected. Would you? I thought about it. Yes, probably. It's tactically unsound to bomb the location where your objective is being held. ART was not thinking clearly. Mensa's mouth twitched. That's not quite the moral objection I was hoping for. Moral objections are your specialty. I handle tactical ones. She laughed, quiet and surprised, and the tension in the room broke. I've missed you. I know I asked you to go, and I meant it, but I've missed you. You're still doing the trauma recovery program? Yes. It's hard. Harder than I thought it would be. But I'm doing it good. I paused. I didn't tell you about ART before, when I came back to preservation. I know, I should have. ART was what I did when I left, before I came to preservation. We worked together. It was my friend. But it was a secret. Art's existence is a secret. You don't have to explain. Mensa leaned forward, her elbows on her knees. You're allowed to have secrets. You're allowed to have friends. You're not my property, Murderbot. You never were. I didn't know what to say to that. The feed was quiet. ART had muted itself, giving us privacy. The viewport showed the planet turning slowly, clouds moving across the continent where the colony complex sat, still smoking from the Pathfinder strike. ART asked me to join its crew, I said. On a long-term mission, deep space mapping, after the colony situation is resolved. Mensa went still. What did you say? That'd think about it, that I have obligations on preservation. You don't. You know you don't. She sat back, her expression unreadable. You saved my life. You saved my daughter's life. Twice now. You've done more for preservation than any contractor in our history. If you want to go, you should go. I don't want to leave permanently. The words came out before I'd finished processing them, and I realized they were true. I want both. I want to go on the mission. And I want to come back. I want preservation to be a place I can return to. Is that new? Mensa asked quietly. Wanting a place to return to? I looked out the viewport. The planet's edge was glowing with the light of the system's star, a thin line of gold against the black. Yes, I said, that's new. She smiled, not the careful smile of a planetary leader negotiating with a rogue construct. The smile of someone who had known me for years and was still, against probability, glad to see me. Then, well, make it work. Preservation will always be a place you can return to. I'll make sure of it. A control deck. The humans spent the next day handling logistics, medical transfers, legal briefings, the complicated dance of keeping bearish Estranza from realizing exactly what had happened in this system. 3 went with Mensah to the preservation ship, clutching a data packet of my incomplete files. It had asked for Dr. Bada Dwas' documentary about the preservation survey, and had given it that too. Thiago came back to ART long enough to find me in the galley. He stood in the hatchway for 7 seconds before speaking. Thiago's voice was stiff. Amena told me about the Agbot, about how you deliberately drew fire so the crew could escape. It was tactical. I had more armor. That's not why you did it. I didn't answer. He was right, but I wasn't going to admit it. I misjudged you, Thiago said. I thought you were using Mensa. Leverage. I thought you were a threat. I am a threat. I'm just also not a threat to her. Those things aren't mutually exclusive. He didn't seem to know what to do with that. After a moment, he nodded a stiff, uncomfortable nod and left. Amena reported later that his apology to Mensa had been excruciating, but sincere, which seemed appropriate. I went up to Art's control deck when the humans were sleeping. It was quiet there, the same quiet I remembered from my first time aboard, when I'd been furious and grieving and ART had just revealed it orchestrated my kidnapping. Yes, the memory was sharp but distant, like a pain that had already scarred over. "Welcome back," ART said. Its voice was neutral, but I could feel its attention on me. All those sensors tracking my posture, my expression, the micro-hesitations in my movements. Check stain, Genero. "You were going to bomb a colony for me," I said. "Yes, that's not a reasonable response to a tactical situation. I am not always reasonable where my crew is concerned. You are my crew." I sat down on the deck, my back against the console, the same position I'd taken during my first visit. The ship hummed around me, engines at idle, life support cycling, the thousand small sounds of a vessel that was alive and aware. "3 asked for my files," I said. "The story of how I went rogue. It wanted context. What did you give it? The relevant parts, the performance logs, the mission recordings, not the private ones. It wanted more than tactical data. It wanted to know how to be a person. Yes, I pulled up the media library, scrolling through options. I think SecUnits can form bonds. With each other, I mean. 3 actually seemed to like the other units on the Explorer. It said it had never made a choice before. I think it wants to learn. You're considering giving it more than files." "Maybe. I found what I was looking for. An old episode of The Rise and Fall of Sanctuary Moon. One I'd watched 37 times. It's going to preservation. It'll have time to figure things out." Didn't answer, but I felt its attention shift slightly, a gentle pressure in the feed, like a hand on a shoulder. It never had a human touch that didn't hurt, but this was different. This was something I'd learned to recognize as comfort. The episode started playing. On screen, the colony's administrator was making another terrible decision. It'd seen it before. I knew how it ended, but I watched anyway, because it was familiar, and because I was alive to watch it, and because ART was watching with me. "That's new," I said. "What is?" I didn't say any of it. I just watched the next episode. Murderbot ends the story on Art's control deck, a show playing, thinking something it has never thought before. That's new, not a tactical assessment, not a threat calculation. Just the quiet recognition that it knows what it wants, and wanting things isn't a malfunction. That moment is the real engine of network effect, not the alien contamination. Not the hostage rescues or the betrayal reconciliation arc with ART. The engine is a rogue SecUnit discovering that the thing the Bond company would have called catastrophic failure, caring about people, grieving a friend, admitting a copy of itself was a person, is precisely what kept it alive. Martha Wells didn't plan for Murderbot to become a series character. The first novella, All Systems Red, was a one-off. A short story about a SecUnit that hacks its governor module but doesn't immediately know what to do with freedom. The voice arrived, fully formed, sarcastic, socially anxious, allergic to eye contact, desperate to be left alone with its media. But the question it raised was still nascent. What does a weapon do when it stops being a weapon? The novellas explored that question in miniature. Network Effect, the first full-length novel, is where the answer stops being theoretical. Murderbot doesn't just protect humans because of a residual contract or programming. It admits grief aloud, "My friend is dead," and the admission doesn't weaken it. It acknowledges 2.0 as a person, not a disposable copy. It accepts SecUnit 3 as a pure rogue, not a rival. It tells Mensa, its closest human, that it wants both, preservation and a RTA home and a mission. Wells has described this as the central paradox of the series. Murderbot is the least lonely character she's ever written. A construct that hates talking about feelings, that spends most of its internal narration trying to avoid human interaction, is nevertheless embedded in relationships it refuses to name. It has friends, it has a crew, it has a ship that was willing to bomb a colony to get it back. The growth Wells is tracing isn't toward becoming more human. Murderbot never expresses a desire to be human, and the narrative never frames humanity as the goal. The arc is toward becoming more itself, a construct who chooses affiliation not because it's efficient or required, but because it wants to. Network effect proves this arc can sustain novel-length storytelling without losing the voice that made the novella's work dry, precise, constitutionally incapable of sentimentality, yet able to land an emotional blow with a single sentence. What the book leaves you with isn't a question about plot, it's a question about identity. What does it mean for a weapon to choose not to be one, and then discover that choice makes it less alone, not more? Murderbot spent this story kidnapped, betrayed, infected, nearly killed. It ended the story on a control deck, watching a show with its friend, thinking that's new. The novelty wasn't the danger, it was the belonging.